Putting the heat on COP26, a last-minute intervention from the world's biggest polluters, waters down a pledge to end the use of coal. The US and China's leaders go head-to-head in a virtual meeting. What's at stake for Taiwan in the Biden-Xi talks? Why has a winning bid to host a global LGBT event raised questions about Taiwan's status? Fragile China, we have an exclusive interview with the Malaysian hip-hop star whose song got banned in China and then went viral. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. The COP26 climate conference has drawn to a close in Glasgow, resulting in a new deal that some have applauded, but others say is not enough. Ryan Kilpatrick has the story.
History has been made here in Glasgow.
After 2 weeks of talks and over 2 days in overtime, an agreement has finally emerged from COP26. More than 190 parties have pledged to accelerate emissions cuts, offering some hope of averting the worst outcomes of climate change. To some, it's an historic step away from fossil fuels. But even the conference president admits it is a flawed agreement, especially when it comes to limiting the planetary temperature rise to the 1.5 degrees threshold.
But I would still say that the pulse of 1.5 is weak. And that's why, whilst we have reached, I do believe, a historic agreement, what this will be judged on is not just the fact that countries have signed up, but it will be judged on whether they meet and deliver on the commitments.
The pact was made possible by a backroom deal between the world's 4 biggest polluters, but it was also severely weakened by it. An 11th-hour intervention led by China and India altered a global pledge to phase out coal to phase down instead. Sharma added that the 2 countries will have to shoulder the consequences of this decision.
These are countries on the front line of climate change. For them, 1.5 is really very bad news. 2 degrees is a death sentence. So of course it matters to them, and there was lots of emotion there. And in terms of China and India, they will, on this particular issue, have to explain themselves to the developing countries.
China, according to an EU official in the negotiating room, threatened to break the whole thing down if they did not get their way. Hours after issuing this ultimatum, state-run media boasted about China's increased coal production. New Delhi's decision to derail the conference also disappointed many back in India. Even they admit the country's coal addiction will be impossible to kick in the near term.
Phase out coal? Technically not possible at this moment. None of the scenario can project that India will be having zero dependency on coal by 2050 even.
The Glasgow Climate Pact has also been criticized for lacking an enforcement mechanism, relying merely on the good faith of the world's worst greenhouse gas emitters. For island nations and other vulnerable regions, the death sentence imposed by climate change has not been lifted. But COP26 has at least offered a glimmer of hope. They will be watching the world's polluters to see if they stay true to their word. Alex Chen and Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
US President Joe Biden is set to meet with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping during a virtual meeting later on Monday. The 2 countries are seeking to navigate tensions over Taiwan, trade, and China's military buildup. US and Chinese spokespeople have been tight-lipped on the meeting's agenda. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said only that talks would focus on ways to responsibly manage the US-China relationship. But Taiwan is set to be a major sticking point. Washington has expressed deep concern over recent Chinese incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone, as well as reports of China bolstering its nuclear arsenal. For more details on what we can expect from the virtual meeting, our reporter James Chater spoke with Bonnie Glaser, Director of the Asia Programme at the German Marshall Fund of the United States.
At the meeting between President Biden and Xi Jinping, I think that there will be discussions about their respective visions for the globe and the Indo-Pacific. I know that President Biden is eager to talk about competition between the US and China, which doesn't have to be zero-sum. It doesn't have to lead to war. It does need to be managed. And I think that's the main message that President Biden wants to get across, is that we need to actually put in place mechanisms to manage that competition so it doesn't spiral out of control. There's interest in having risk reduction measures between the two militaries, perhaps, and having some dialogues that might enable us to reduce misunderstanding and control the potential for this intensifying competition to eventually lead to conflict. I think that there's a lot actually for the presidents to talk about. Cooperative issues will also be on the table. I think that both Chinese leader Xi Jinping and President Biden believe that we do still have some converging interests between the United States and China. We should try to work together. So maybe climate change, non-proliferation issues, perhaps some other environmental issues like oceans protection, law enforcement. These are areas where I think that the US and China can work together.
And do you think the potential for cooperation on the issues that you've just mentioned will allow for a greater sense of, a freer sense of dialogue on the more sensitive issues that the leaders also have to address? And I'm thinking particularly here in the case of Taiwan.
Well, first of all, I'm really pessimistic that we will make much headway in any area of cooperation, though I hope that we will. But I think that the areas of converging interests between the United States and China have been reduced. So I'm not very optimistic that we will find much common ground, especially on security issues. And Taiwan, of course, being the most difficult security issue. So I think that the hope is that we can convince China to back off of some of its military, diplomatic, and economic coercion against Taiwan. But I don't think that there is really any basis for a common understanding. The Chinese believe that the United States is emboldening what the language that they use, Taiwan independence. And the United States believes that China is unilaterally changing the status quo in the Taiwan Strait. So the prospects for common ground really are quite dim.
Taiwan is set to begin construction on the first of the country's indigenously developed submarines this week. The plan is to build at least 8 of the new vessels, with the first scheduled for completion in 2024. According to local media reports, Chinese is actively inquiring about the submarine equipment destined for the island. The southern city of Kaohsiung has made history by becoming the first country in Asia to successfully bid to host the global LGBT event WorldPride. But the organising body, Interpride, has caused controversy by referring to Taiwan not as a country, but as the region of Taiwan. Rick Lowett has this report.
It should be a happy occasion. Taiwan's southern city of Kaohsiung has been chosen as the host city for 2025 WorldPride. It will be the first time a city in East Asia will hold the biennial LGBT event that attracts thousands of tourists. But WorldPride organisers Interpride used the phrase region of Taiwan when it announced the winning bid. It prompted a storm of criticism online and a headache for Kaohsiung organisers.
Our ally include Interpride. They are very empathy to our situation. We are trying to communicate to find out a solution.
Behind the strange wording is pressure from China, according to Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who also said they had raised the issue with WorldPride organisers. China claims Taiwan as part of its own sovereign territory and fights against almost each and every recognition of Taiwan as an independent country on the world stage.
In the international, we are the minority, and the naming is really important to us. So we will try to fix it out and try the best solution in this issue, and let everyone and let whole world know Taiwan is Taiwan.
The country, a regional leader in LGBT rights, is once again silenced on the world stage, tarnishing what should be another moment of pride. Chris Marr and Rick Glowert for TaiwanPlus.
Seasoned LGBT activist Jennifer Liu, who helped push for Taiwan's landmark same-sex marriage legislation, talked to TaiwanPlus reporter Rick Glowert about the Kaohsiung Pride controversy.
Actually, I feel very disappointed, but it's predictable because it happens so many times during my international activism. So I understand this is not their original plan, but according to the regulation of United Nations, any international NGOs relate to United Nations, you have to follow United Nations policy. So this kind of situation happens every time where we, as a Taiwanese, we want to do more international participation.
So how does denying Taiwan a platform on the world stage like this, how does it affect Taiwanese people?
I think every Taiwanese activist, we really want to be seen and to participate in the international affairs, and because we want to contribute our efforts. But this kind of pressure actually devalues Taiwanese achievements and also neglect our citizens.
How does a move like this harm or affect Taiwan's effort to promote LGBT rights in the region and worldwide?
Obviously, Taiwan can achieve this amazing milestone, and we have been trying to support other Asian countries as well. The reason we can do that is because we are different from China, and we belong to strengthened democratic system, and our civil society is very active, and we do have very amazing activists trying to make Taiwan better as a country.
Coming up after the break, an exclusive chat with a hip-hop star whose viral hit was banned in China. Nama Wee tells us why he chose freedom over fortune. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A reminder of our top story. The COP26 climate conference has drawn to a close in Glasgow, resulting in a new deal to accelerate emissions cuts. But in a last-minute objection, China and India weakened a pledge to end the use of coal. TaiwanPlus reporter Louise Watt asked renowned Chinese environmentalist Ma Jun about the China's environmental commitments at COP26.
I think that allegation is quite unfair in the case of China. Ever since the outbreak of the pandemic, Chinese leaders have not attended any international meetings outside the country. China has sent its special envoy, the best candidate, to lead the Chinese delegation. Most importantly, I think Chinese top leader has made a carbon peak and neutrality pledge in September 2020. I think this pledge is pretty fundamental and for the world to fight against climate change. Of course, more could be done, and we have seen that the target set by China is basically stated that we will try to achieve carbon peak before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060. I think that has made the space for the stakeholders to come together to try to hasten the process. We hope that we can achieve peak and neutrality ahead of the schedule.
And what are the attitudes of people in China towards climate change? Is this something that the Chinese public is aware of? Is it something that the Chinese public cares about?
I think at this moment, there's more work needs to be done to try to build the awareness, which is very, very important. We have seen how the public demand for clean air have motivated the government to come up with this massive clean air action plan. And through this multi-stakeholder approach, China managed to cut the level of its air pollution by half in just 8 years of time. That's roughly the time frame for the world needs to cut carbon emission so as to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius target alive. So I think we need to tap into all these experiences, and one of the key lessons we learned is that the public awareness, public recognition is very, very important.
Now let's take a look at some of the stories making world headlines. One person is dead and another injured in a suspected terrorist attack after a vehicle exploded outside of Liverpool Women's Hospital in the United Kingdom. 3 men have been arrested and are being detained under the anti-terror legislation. The explosion took place in the morning on Remembrance Sunday, when people across the UK mark a minute's silence to honour the country's armed forces who have fallen in the wars. Investigators are exploring whether there is a link between the two events. Moving to Austria, the government has ordered a nationwide lockdown for unvaccinated people over the age of 12 as the country faces a fresh surge in coronavirus cases. Starting on Monday, unvaccinated people are not allowed to leave their homes except for basic activities such as working, food shopping or getting vaccinated. Austria has one of the lowest rates of vaccination in Europe. Anyone found violating restrictions risks a fine of up to $1,700. It was one of the biggest shopping days this year in Taiwan, but Singles Day also set records across Asia. In just 2 seconds, Chinese e-commerce giant JD.com rang in more than $15 million in iPhone sales. The record-setting performance comes despite many Chinese technology companies facing intense scrutiny from regulators. The November 11th sales bonanza is an annual shopping phenomenon that was originally started by Alibaba online. Taiwanese film City of Lost Things has won Best Animated Feature Film at the Chicago International Children's Film Festival. Director Yi Zhiyan's film took first prize in the Professional Jury Awards. The movie took 10 years to make and tells the story of Leaf, a teenage social outcast. Leaf travels to a place called the City of Lost Things and befriends a discarded plastic bag named Baggy. The film won Best Animated Feature at last year's Golden Horse Awards in Taiwan. Malaysian hip-hop artist Name Wee took the internet by storm. with his latest release, Fragile, a duet written with Australian singer Kimberly Chen. The song, which takes aim at the glass hearts of people online, struck a chord with many in Taiwan. Our reporter Ken Ning sat down with Naming Wee for an exclusive interview to find out about the song and his new album.
对不起，伤害了你，伤了你的感情。我听见有个声音，是玻璃心碎一地。
It broke over 25 million views around the globe in just 3 weeks. But that's not all. It also became the only Mandarin song to reach the global top 15 trending songs on YouTube. Many people have called Fragile a thinly veiled dig at the China's online nationalists. I sat down with Naming Wee to talk about his intentions in writing the song.
And the song is actually about the relationship between people. Sometimes we just trying to tell the truth, telling the true story, but some people cannot accept that. That's why I make the song Fragile.
Are you worried about, after releasing this song, what was the impact of your, of this song?
Actually, I don't mean to make a song like to China or what country. I didn't mean that. I also didn't mention the name of the country or any people's name inside my lyrics. For me, it's just a love song. It's a love song and telling about the relationship between people.
Although China is not mentioned in the lyrics, the music video features imagery related to China, such as pandas. But Naming Wee insists that people see what they want to see in the song, that they had no intention of focusing specifically on China.
Different people got different explanation for my lyrics. That's the magic of the song. It's about when we are telling the truth, we didn't mean to hurt anyone, but someone, they just get hurt because maybe they are too sensitive or something. That's the intention.
Naming Wee is grateful for the support he's received from fans around the world. He says he did not expect the song to go viral.
Actually, I'm quite surprised because this song makes the results come out. I didn't think about my song can reach to the world.
Fragile is the newest single from Naming Wee's latest album, Kaohsiung. He explains the concept behind the album.
其实这个鬼才做音乐，如果在英文来讲，我们的英文名字反而更特别，它叫 Kaohsiung， 就是 ghost 是鬼嘛 ，musician 是音乐人嘛。
The Chinese word for ghost, 鬼, also sounds like the word for genius. But his record company didn't exactly think he had the look of a genius. But clearly, he's figured out how to use his creativity to connect with his fans.
事实把我送到了这里，乌烟瘴气，快要窒息。所有人被囚禁，他们都被锁紧，不断。
很多人觉得我在挑战一些别人的尺度或者什么，可是对我来说，有些东西很敏感。比如说我拍的电影，说种族议题很敏感，那对我来说，越敏感的就代表他越需要被讨论。那如果他就是因为他有这样的问题在，他才会敏感。那如果我们没有人去提出来，那个问题永远就会在那边。
Naming Wee says that musicians should be free to create whatever they want, but he knows that some countries have their limits.
所以很多人说，那首歌在大陆可能被下架、被禁。那我觉得，因为每个国家的法律不一样，国有国法。那如果你那个国家不能接受，那如果你接下来你要在那个国家发挥你的作品，那你就要遵守他的法律。
So Naming Wee had to make a choice of whether he would work in China or not. He says that he was considering working with the company there and even agreed to follow China's rules for social media. He was hoping he would be free to post whatever he wanted on social media outside of China, like on Facebook and Instagram.
他们说不可以，那有些作品、一些词啊、一些文字，全部要审查，然后是很严格的。那对我来说，这样会影响我创作的初衷。
Naming Wee says that many Chinese internet users have left positive comments for him since Fragile was released. And many musicians and filmmakers there have messaged him privately with words of encouragement.
可是其实最意外、最感动的是我的微信，因为我的微信没什么用。 可是我有一些大陆的一些工作伙伴，然后他们就拉了很多人进来，就进来说，哎，你那首不能打字的、不能打名字的歌很棒。然后我现在不方便讲，可是真的，我想告诉你，因为打起来那个微信会被查，他们有审查。
For Ning Wei, the best thing about making music in Taiwan is you don't have to worry about censorship.
你说创作作品，其实在哪里都可以创作，只是发表作品的时候，我觉得台湾这边给我的包容度是很大的。而且之前我写过一首歌叫《鬼岛》，那首歌其实是有在酸，也有在讽刺什么一些台湾的一些现象什么。然后这种歌如果在一些其他某某国家可能会被骂死，或者被禁、被下架、被封杀，台湾没有，而且还让我入围金曲奖最佳年度歌曲，对我来说是一个就是台湾就是有这样的包容力跟尺度。
With the support of his peers and fans around the world, Ning Wei is an artist at the height of his powers. And as his latest album makes clear, the freedom of creativity requires freedom of speech. And in Taiwan, Ning Wei has found the perfect partner for his music. Patrick Chen, Chris Ma, and Ken Ning for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We leave you with some images of the new National Aquarium in Abu Dhabi. Check out TaiwanPlus News on YouTube and our website for this show and more. Stay safe and see you next time.